Outrage increases over President Trump's social media posts depicting the Obamas as apes. It's important to note that his racist rhetoric is just a reflection of the racist policies he's been pushing since day one of his presidency. Shortly after taking office the second time, Trump issued executive orders ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at federal agencies and in the private sector. And on Friday, a federal appeals court sided with the Trump administration and lifted a block on the president's DEI crackdown. Trump is also continuing his election fraud schemes and singling out cities with a majority black and brown population. This week, he falsely called out cities like Philadelphia and Atlanta for, quote, horrible corruption. On top of it all, the president is determined to rewrite black history. The latest attack includes removing the word racist from monument brochures describing the killer of civil rights activist Medgar Evers. Byron Della Beckwith, who murdered Evers in 1963, belonged to the nation's most violent white supremacist group, the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And all of that was just this week. Eugene Robinson is back with us. You know, Eugene, I have a Substack out today where I point out I've been calling Donald Trump a racist since 2015. 2015.
Yeah.
And I wrote a column just saying, you know, dude's racist and he shouldn't be anywhere near the Republican Party nomination. And he sent me back a nasty gram. I think, do we have the picture of it? He didn't like what I wrote. So he writes, Jonathan, you are the racist, not I. Get rid of your hate, in quotation marks. And then you can see it on the left side of your screen. Best wishes. Donald.
Wow.
Donald
Best
Trump.
wishes, right.
Best
Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Right.
Yes.
So anyone who's been paying attention to Donald Trump all these years isn't really surprised.
Central Park 5. I mean, you can go way back.
Way back.
Donald Trump refusing to rent to black tenants. When he was taking over the real estate company from his father, he got sued by the federal government and had to settle, and essentially admit that that's what we were doing. So no, that the racism goes way back.
And the racism also invades everything. Right? Because there's one thing for someone to be personally racist, right?
Yes.
For them to believe that black and brown people are beneath them. But then the question also becomes, when they're in politics, what do they do with that racist feeling, that racist mindset? And it appears to be, for Donald Trump, a way, not just the discrimination that you're talking about when he was renting, but also his claims of so-called reverse racism, upending the DOJ Civil Rights Division. This is from CBS earlier last month. Several former Justice Department employees said the department's focus is shifting. It will seek to protect white people against alleged, quote, reverse discrimination. Trump said civil rights protections and programs have hurt white people. I think that a lot of people were very badly treated.
Yes. So, look, what's the one class of refugees that he wants to admit to? White South Africans. Those are the only people he, for the entire world, and he doesn't want any of these people from these s-hole countries, which happen to include all of us here, right? And that it is, and then Atlanta and Philadelphia, going after cities where it just so happens that a whole lot of black people have come out and voted against him in all of his elections. It's kind of it's transparent. It's been there all along, and many of us, like Jonathan, have pointed it out. Yet it has not weakened him at all with his base.
Well, what does that tell?
And in fact, one would argue it's been applauded by much of his base. And then there are other Republicans who used to at least pay lip service to diversity, if not actually support it, who just sort of go along and pretend, oh, I didn't hear that, or I didn't get to that. So this is it's shameful, but it has real impact on real people.
But Trump won 15% of black voters in 2024.
Yeah.
It was an 8% increase from his first administration, where he arguably also implemented and ran on a number of racist policies. But I think on Friday, a lot of people were surprised, at least journalists who have been reading the Republican tea leaves as much as possible, that so many Republicans came out against the social media post.
Tim Scott immediately, right? It's the only racist thing I've seen.
I've never heard Tim Scott issue such a pointed
let's pull up the list.
admonition of Donald Trump. Do we have that?
Yep.
These are the House members: Tim Scott, Pete Ricketts, Roger Wicker, some of the usual suspects, but also Katie Britt, Nick LaLota, French Hill. These are people, some of whom were elected in deep red districts.
Yeah.
Why do you think this was a line crossed for them?
Because it was so hideous and so totally reminiscent of like the 1950s, the Bull Connor days, the George Wallace days. And there was nothing clever or sophisticated about it, just portray the first black president and first lady as apes. It shocked people. I think Tim Scott was shocked, but people like Roger Wicker and Katie Britt, from the South, who not only have many black constituents, but who recognized it for what it was. And I just think they were genuinely, this is like a bridge too far. You've got to be kidding. And it is stunning. It stuns me. I personally think Trump posted it himself. He says, well, it was some lower-ranking aide. But that, in a sense, doesn't matter. That anything like that would come out of any White House is absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
All these people acting surprised need to watch some television. Tim Scott being so surprised that this happened is surprising to me.